This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. Thom Hartmann here with you. It's a beautiful Wednesday. It is the middle of the week. It's the middle of the day. It's time for Middays with Congressman Mark Pocan on the line with us, representing Wisconsin's 2nd District, pocan.house.gov. He's also the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Congressman, and you can tweet him at Rep. Mark, M-A-R-K, Pocan, P-O-C-A-N. Congressman, welcome back.
Thanks, Tom. Glad to be here.
Great to have you with us. So I understand you've got some legislation you're going to drop.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when people ask sometimes, where an idea comes forth for us to put out legislation, this is a classic example. Being on your show and having the conversation every week with people who have very rightfully been upset about the interstate cross-check and concerned that more is not being done about it. We are introducing a bill today, Representative John Conyers and myself, called the Voter Roll Integrity Act that would specifically address the interstate cross-check issue. And it would mandate that any state that takes someone off the polls, they would have to independently confirm that person's full name, including middle name, their date of birth, the last 4 digits of their Social Security number for privacy, and the suffix of their name. And it has to request a response from the voters to confirm a change of address. All these safeguards, we've worked with the groups that deal with these issues around the country. We feel this is the strongest that we can have to make sure that people won't be thrown off like the 7.2 million people were under the interstate cross-check. And we're, really glad that this came out of a conversation with people across the country saying this is important. We're introducing this, and if you, as you know from Greg Palin's movie, this is exactly what he said. We have to expose this in order to defeat this, and this is helping us to expose this issue so that states can't get away with purging voters so that politicians can pick who votes for them rather than the other way around.
Yeah, it's really remarkable to me how, in some areas, Greg Palin's movie has really gone viral, and in other parts of the media, it's the debate itself, the issue is invisible. Joy Reid's been doing a good job on MSNBC with this, but CNN, I don't think, has even brought up the topic. So I'm really glad to hear that you're dropping this, you're putting this legislation on the floor. What can people do to support it?
Well, I think, because I don't have a number yet because we're dropping it this afternoon. Once we have that, we'll share it with you, Tom, if you don't mind putting it on your website. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And we'll be putting it on our Facebook page and our Twitter account so that people can contact their member of Congress and ask them to sign on. But this gives us an organizing tool to have this conversation with our elected officials and to try to gain support for people to get on the bill. And I know Public Citizen is, giving us a quote on the press release that goes out, so we've got their support. And, there's this report that even NBC had in 2016 talking about analyzing 50 million registered voters from 12 states, and they came up with that $7 million person number. This is something I think that gives us that opportunity to try to raise the profile of the issue and make it harder for those who want to cheat voters out of their what should be a right to vote.
Yeah, amen. We're talking with Congressman Mark Pocan. He's with us for the hour. He'll be taking your calls in just a minute. Congressman, what else is going on in Congress that you'd like to share with us that you think is of consequence?
Well, I think, the big issue of this week clearly was, we won a battle, but we still have a lot more to do on the war. I don't usually like these analogies, but there really is a war on health care in Congress right now. I mean, there is an attempt to take away health care from 22 million people just so they can provide tax breaks to the wealthiest and big corporations and big pharma. And we need to do everything we can to keep the pressure on our senators and our members of the House of Representatives. As we all go home next week, there's going to be a ton of parades around 4th of July. This is a time to make sure that you can get in front of your elected official that's probably not doing a town hall right now and let them know that this health care bill is toxic. It's bad for people. It's not about health care, and that you're going to hold them accountable because right now there are 2 different polls came out. I saw today. One has 17% support and one has 12% support for the so-called Trump care, although I prefer Trump don't care as a name proposal. We need to keep the pressure up because the only way we're going to get them to hopefully just do what they should do, as Republican Senator Susan Collins from Maine said, let's just fix the Affordable Care Act where we all know it needs to have fixes, and let's make sure that we're not taking health care away from tens of millions of people.
Yeah. And in my opinion, the easiest fix to the Affordable Care Act, I realize that, Republicans have drilled a bunch of holes in it, doing away with the guardrails, the risk corridors, Marco Rubio's amendment, and now the Trump administration saying, well, maybe we'll make those payments and maybe not, the Obamacare subsidy payments that have to be issued monthly by the Treasury Department.
Yep.
But it seems like the biggest fix would be simply adding a public option to it, a Medicare for all public option that people can buy into. What do you think?
Without question. If their biggest argument is there's not competition because they've done so many things to make sure there's not competition, the best way you can provide guaranteed competition in the market is by providing a public option. And that would be absolutely something. I think also we've got to look at the fact that, healthy people aren't signing up like we had intended. So we've got to address that. And there's other, smaller other issues out there. But let's do our jobs and fix what's in place that doesn't kick people off of health care. The problem is, for Republicans, they don't really care about health care one way or the other, clearly based on the bills they've passed out of the House and tried to out of the Senate. What they do care about is, cutting taxes for their donors, for the wealthiest, for the donor class in this country. And that's a separate issue. So we've got to make these separate issues and fix health care so that the standard should be how do more people have access to health care and how do you make it more affordable? And right now their bill does neither.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, in the studio, I've got Fox News on and MSNBC on, and both of their chyrons are Senator McConnell plans to push, this is Fox, to push on replace Obamacare on the Senate floor. And on MSNBC, it's Trump. We're going to get that health care bill over the line. So no time to sit on your laurels.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Jared in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, you are on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yes, hello, Tom, and hello, Congressman Mark Pocan. And I want to bring up Syria. That's recently been in the news. And a lot of people like to paint Assad is like the bad guy in this whole conflict and everyone else as essentially the good guy, excluding ISIS. But recently I've read reports about ethnic cleansing by the the YPG Kurds in Raqqa, which is the de facto capital of ISIS in Syria. And I also saw a recent video about the White Helmets who have just recently carried out beheadings of, I'm not sure who, it might have been reporters or something like that, in Syria. And I just had to ask, why is it that we are funding these well-known terrorist organizations in Syria over the legitimate Syrian government of Bashar al-Assad?
Yeah, well, Jared, let me answer it this way because, where we're at right now, we have a Republican House, Senate, and President, and I think the concern that I have is that they're going to look to find more ways to get involved in Syria, period. And, my concern has always been much broader in the region. We clearly don't have an expertise in this region. Even under President Obama, something I disagreed with him on is when we put $500 million into training people, and I think at the end of the day we trained under 100 people, and most of them had stepped away. It was an enormous waste of time and effort in trying to, again, get involved in other countries. And, I think the only thing I disagree a little bit, Jared, is I do think that, the leadership of Assad has been detrimental to the people. I'm not saying I'm not one who wants regime change or anything else. Again, I've been very clear on involvement. I do think, though, that he has done a lot of things to his own people. I think we're in trying to find someone to fight the fight, often finding just as bad characters just from other angles, and that's why a lot of us really want to have a less of a role in this area. And so I guess the only thing I would take a little bit of difference is I think Assad, does do a lot that's caused a lot of his people to have to leave the country, but I don't think the increased U.S. role is going to be any answer. And this is one where we need worldwide partners to be working with, not, again, how we've done all too many things in the Middle East.
We have a little less than a minute to the break. Do you think that the Libertarian branch of the Republican Party, which is traditionally non-interventionist, could form an alliance with relatively non-interventionist Democrats, or at least those Democrats who don't see the interests of the United States in this region?
Yeah, we did a couple years ago when remember President Obama was going to send troops into Syria. That's exactly the coalition. I remember sitting at a meeting with Rand Paul and a bunch of Republicans as well as some Democrats talking about working together on it. So absolutely, I think there's that potential again. Whether or not it's a little different because there's a different president, but I think Rand Paul and people like that are fairly consistent on what they believe. So let's hope there is. I get concerned. If you look at just right now, 45 minutes ago, U.S. Watching for further moves by Syria, war in Syria against chemical attack preparations. Those are all things that make me nervous for getting involved again.
Yeah, harbingers of war, I guess is the
Absolutely.
the phrase. Yeah. Congressman Mark Pocan, we'll be right back with more calls for Congressman Pocan.